What's up, gente? What's up, Raza? I just want to do a quick update on something that I've spoken about, and especially in study groups. If anybody has ever joined a study group for the Brown Berets or the Second Rainbow Coalition across the country, there's a couple of things we talk about in there, including some laws that, man, are going to change people's lives. If not already, they're impacting us. And one of those is called NSPM-7. That stands for the National Security Presidential Memorandum 7. And this is a directive issued by President Trump in September 2025, entitled Countering Domestic Terrorism and Organized Political Violence. Think about that. It's labeled as Countering Domestic Terrorism and Organized Political Violence. That should say it all right there. Terrorism, political violence, and who is Trump obviously targeting? Anybody that disagrees with them. And one of the questions I want to help answer is, will Trump start arresting, quote unquote, and going after, quote unquote, regular Americans? And also those who are struggling to stay here in this country with green cards, right? Or anybody who disagrees with them who became a citizen. That's called denaturalization, where he goes after, or they go, governments go after people who become citizens despite them being born into the country and doing well. They're stripped of their citizenship legally. I'll talk about that as well and how that can impact all of us. But this is a broad directive where the federal agencies, including the FBI, the Department of Justice, Homeland Security, Joint Terrorism Task Forces, are asked to investigate and disrupt organized political violence and activities that the administration characterizes as terrorist or domestic terrorism. Before we go on, I just want to point something out. For those of you who don't know what the definition of terrorism is and why we rarely hear about it, right? Terrorism is basically where somebody, it could be a person or it could be a country, an entity, they oppose a law or laws, and they use violence, though, to oppose it. So it's two things: opposing political policy or a law, but through the use of violence. You can oppose it, and that's considered free speech. That's supposed to be protected under the First Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. But the reason why the United States has not really used domestic terrorism laws since the 1960s, when they went after, including the Black Panthers, AIM, the Brown Berets, the Young Lords, anybody who was considered a militant radical organization, the communist organizations, for example. And the reason they haven't is because they realized it had backfired on them and it was not popular, because really what they're doing is stifling or trampling on free speech. Trump doesn't care. He's dismissed that and said, nope, we are going to target these groups now. So under this new policy, and it's really not new. What's new about it is that how it's being done, how Trump is using it, because who do they label as possible domestic terrorist? Anybody who is on the left, for example, is labeled a domestic terrorist. Supporters of unions are considered domestic terrorists. People who are atheists, don't believe in Christianity, for example, Muslims, you are considered a domestic terrorist group. If you don't believe in killing gay people, if you oppose that, you are now a domestic terrorist. Animal rights activists, will all now be considered domestic terrorists because you are on the left. That means you oppose with the right, what the Trump administration is trying to implement, including the ICE raids and the ICE detention camps and prisons, right? So anybody who is on the left of Donald Trump and the administration is now going to be considered a domestic terrorist. And this is not new. Like I said, this has been around for a while. Barack Obama used this too. Biden uses this too. They all use it. But in this case, Trump is going further than just, labeling people domestic terrorists. If you, for example, were born in another country and came to the United States, and you came here and lived here under a green card, even though that is considered documentation, legal documentation, the Trump administration is now requiring that people self-deport if they want to renew that green card. Because if you ever held that green card, you have to renew it every so often. Well, even if you were not a political person involved with politics or radical politics or organizing, they say you're just an everyday person who has a green card. Now they want you to self-deport. They're saying, we want you out of here, apply from the country you came from, and maybe we'll let you back in, maybe we won't. And there's thousands, if not millions, of people out there who have this kind of status, and they can't just self-deport. And those who might have to self-deport, a lot of them may not even come back, just because, and this is a fact, everybody, in the last year, the Trump administration has only issued 6,000 new citizenship entries to the United States. Of those 6,000, I believe 6,000 plus, I should say, 6,000 have been issued to white South Africans, who the Trump administration, under their Nazi advisors, has said that there was a white genocide happening in South Africa, and therefore we must let these white people in, not these black people, not these brown people, these white people. So in the last year, that's a fact, and that should tell you all you need to know about this administration's priorities of white supremacy. Literally, it's white supremacy. And if people self-deport, going back to my point, if people have go back to their country, they may not be let back in. They may find something, a DUI, or they might find something that they'll say, up, red flag, can't let this person back in, despite this person being brought here as a baby. For example, like the Dreamers being brought here as a baby, a child, and not even, ever having spent enough time in that country to really know what it's like, or knowing how to speak the language, for that matter. A lot of people, speak English, pick up, they become assimilated. And, how are you going to send them back to a country where they've never been or grew up in, or if last time they were there, they were a child, they have no connection to or no laws? That is what they're doing. That's how cruel this is. And that's why we need to pay attention to what's going on with ICE and with this policy, NSPM-7. With this policy that's out there, we need to be aware that it's not just people who were quote unquote criminals here. That's low hanging fruit, right? It's not just those people, but the NSPM-7 basically also goes after people who are here, but with green cards, right? Green cards. So that leads me to the other question, and that has to do with citizenship. And what if people came here with a green card, or for that matter, undocumented, right? And they became citizens, and they held their hand up and said, I'm going to uphold the American Constitution. I'm going to become a citizen. Well, now they're going after those people too. If you are part of the left wing, they consider you radical. You could be a journalist, you could be an educator, a doctor, teacher. They do not care. They want to strip you of your citizenship. That is called denaturalization. And there is laws in the books, and Barack Obama used them. A lot of people have used them in the past to go after people who maybe lied about something in their past before, as they became a citizen, or were involved with organizations, quote unquote, terrorist organizations. Like Barack Obama went after some people from Muslim countries and said, they had lied on their application, and they happen to be terrorists, right? And it's not just Barack Obama that did this. They all do this. And by they, I'm talking about presidents and their administrations. So we're at the point now where it doesn't matter. You will have to self-deport. It doesn't matter. You can be stripped of your citizenship. And it doesn't matter, because obviously this administration's priority is white people. This is white supremacy. And I'm bringing this to your attention for many of you who have family, including myself, who are still living under green card status, who may have to self-deport, or who are have become citizens and can be stripped of their citizenship. You will not be targeted under this NSPM-7 law or policy by Trump and his administration. So what are we to do? My advice, or if there's any guidance that needs to be given out there, is to continue the fight, Raza. Continue the fight, gente. Unite in solidarity with other groups. Support those groups. Don't fall into these traps. You all have heard me say about, the black people. They ain't never done anything for us. The Asians, they ain't never done. Don't fall into that foolishness, right? So support those organizations and groups and people, because we need to also be supported by them. And the Trump administration, going back, to 1492, when Christopher Columbus landed here, or Hernando Cortez, any of those colonizers, they used a simple tactic called divide and conquer. And this is the same thing the Trump administration has been doing. They pit people against each other, they pit groups against each other, say, ha, see, the Mexicans are taking your jobs, these Africans are on welfare from Somalia. They try to pit us against each other. Don't fall into that foolishness. Educate yourself, inform yourself about these laws, make connections with people. That way you can stay up with the laws and stay up with what's going on. But stay up on the issues, stay aware, and stay informed, because at the end of the day, a lot of people are not educated about politics. They don't pay attention to politics until time comes around to vote for something or somebody. And at that point, that lack of organization, leads us to basically have no bite. Our bark has no bite. Our threats to these political parties, our threats to even this government, of fighting back, they don't take us serious because they see how divided we are, number one, and two, how ignorant we are as well. There's stupid people who choose to be stupid, like current Trump supporters, Latinos for Trumps, those who voted for Trump 3 times. Those are stupid. They choose to be stupid. But there's a lot of people out there who are ignorant, who just don't know. They're trying to live life day to day, and unfortunately, when it comes down to taking a stand politically, sometimes they don't realize that till it's too late. Having said that, before I check out real quick, I will be doing a video on Candace Owens, Nick Fuentes, Tucker Carlson, all these right wing podcasters and influencers and personalities people have asked about. I will do something on that. And I'll be honest with you, just for those who may know who those people are, and if you don't know, you should look them up. Not the highest intellect out there or best representatives. They are right wingers who have turned on Trump. They're right wingers who are all of a sudden, and some have been calling for the killing of Muslims, and all of a sudden they find their ways, or the deportation, mass deportation of immigrants. All of a sudden they want to have a soft heart. No, don't fall into that foolishness. I'll be doing a whole thing on that, dedicating maybe a half hour or more to that, because they're trying to fool us. They're grifters, and at the end of the day, they are not for the working people. They are not for the oppressed. So don't fall victim and fall, I would say, to their spells of white supremacy, literally white supremacy, despite the names. All right, with that said, I'm out. Que viva la raza. All power to the people, and I will see you all later. Aho.